Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be part 4 of our Marvel API Heroes project. This should be the last part of the series, so it might be a little longer than expected, but I haven't done the video yet. This is pre-production, so I might be able to condense it to be the shortest one in all the parts that we've done, out of all the parts that we've done. Not sure yet. Stay tuned to find out, or just look at the time, the time on the duration of the video. So that helps too. But I'll try my best to condense it. In this part, we're going to be using in a front end, we're going to be implementing Material UI, which would help our front end design. We're going to be using React icons in the back end. It's going to be more routes and it's going to be more routing and our controller, so we're going to be adding to that. So with all that said and all that rambling out the way, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoy this series, and if you want to see more of these kind of series. I will be putting out more content in the near future. Might not be this exact kind of content, but it'll be similar. We're going to be doing a lot of more React, Next.js type of things. So yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get right into it. All right, guys. So what we want to do now is go into a model, and I don't know if I stated this previously, but I'm going to be running through some of these and not really explaining them if we have gone through the concept before, just to make this a little bit more condensed. So for the model, what we want to do is we want to create something called Marvel Comics. And I will show you why we do that in a second. So like always, we're just going to import Mongoose,
music licensing,
require Mongoose. Okay. And now what we want to say is, actually, before we do anything, let's just go over here. So this is my personal project. It's the one I created. So here you can see that we have two tabs. We have the comics and we have the characters. So if I click the comics, it shows me a whole bunch of comics. And if I search Blade, there we go. If we search Blade, you can see that all, well, I think 12. Yeah, 12 Blade comics come up. And if we do the same thing for characters and say Blade, we just have one character named Blade. So that's what we're trying to implement by doing by creating the model for that, the schema for that in our database. So we want to be able to receive this kind of information. This right here, Wolverine, is being stored permanently in our database. So anytime we open this, it comes straight out of the database. Just like if we go to characters, we'll also have Spider-Man being saved in our database. So this is what we see in our on our homepage. Anything else is, when we search, is gotten from via the API. So we're trying to create this and store it in our databases at the moment. So let's go back here, and this is, so let's see if I still remember. Yep. So this is the one we created last time. As you can see, there's nothing at the bottom. It's just this. So let's go back here. So we have Mongoose. Now we want to say const comic schema is equal to new Mongoose schema.
music licensing,
And we're going to be doing, this should be dot. There we go. So we're going to be doing the same thing we did and when we created the hero page one. We're going to have all this. So what we want to do is, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it from my my actual project. So I'm going to go into my model and I'll show you guys what it looks like, and Marvel Comics, and I'm just going to grab all of this and come over here to Marvel Comics and just paste it in there. Let's see. Oh, okay, that wasn't smart. So let's go back,
music licensing,
and we're just going to take everything from here to here. So everything from here. There we go. So it's literally the same thing we had in the hero page. So I just had to make sure before I told you to copy the same thing. So it's the same thing we had in the hero page. You're just going to be doing this as Marvel Comics. So it's you can just copy the exact same thing you had for the schema in hero page, the one we did last time. So we're going to be doing that. I don't believe we need this. And now all we're going to say is, just like we did in the hero page, we're just going to be exporting it. So we're going to create this. So it's going to be const. Did we just call it comic? Let's just make sure everything aligns. Yep, comic. So comic is equal to mongoose dot model, and we're going to call this comic something. What did we call it? Comic. So we're going to call it comic. Sorry, I just want to make sure I do it the same way in case I have to debug it. And I know like I have a reference to look at. And we're going to use the same name, comic schema. Now we can export it. So module that exports is equal to comic. Awesome. So now one last thing. Let's also come here before we, and then let's do the same thing for characters. So we're going to say characters.js, and I just showed you how that works for characters. So for characters, we're going to do the same thing. Const.mongoose is equal to require mongoose const character is equal to mongoose dot schema. Okay, so for a character, this is, I believe, it's going to be a little shorter. So let's see what we had here for character. Yeah, so I'm going to copy this, and I'll show you what the main difference is when I copy it after I paste it. So here, characters, we're going to have almost the same thing. So let's split this like so. And let's make this bigger. Cool. So the difference is, rather than having the results be every single thing here, we only want these results. We want the ID, the name, the description, the modified string, and the thumbnail. This is all we want from our character screen for our characters, for our schema when it pertains to characters. So you just go ahead and copy that. I'm just going to close out of this one. So you go ahead and copy this here. You don't have to put this. I just put the timestamp. So in our database, we know we have some kind of a time record of when the character was put in. It's not really important. I just put that in there just to show you guys that you can also timestamp it. So you just put it within this bracket and say timestamps is true. That's all we're doing here. So now we can come down here. So once you copy all this, and the way we got this is in our last video, in part 3, I showed you how we got this schema, how we're getting this exact schema. So if you don't remember how we did it, you can go in the last part and it will show you why we're picking these particular ones, or how we even got to pick this particular ones. So here we want to say const characters is equal to mongoose dot model character data. Let's make this character data, and this is going to be characters, correct? It's going to be module dot exports is equal to characters. This should be capital. Characters is equal to characters module dot exports. Switch up here. Okay, I see why. All right. So let's keep this one capitalized, and let's keep this one. There we go. And this is going to be in lowercase. This is going to be in caps. Cool. So we have all well, let's just keep it at this for right now. What's it called? Let's keep our model at this for right now. We'll come back to it and add something else to it. So with this, now what we want to do is come over to our controller, and we're going to be building out our controller for the API to help with the API, help get data from the API. So now we want to say const. So remember here, what we did is when we got superhero names, we're going to be doing the same thing, but it's going to be comic names. So we're going to say const comic names is equal to, and we're going to be picking Wolverine. And remember, like I said, you can put a comma here and put as many as you want. You just got to figure out the steps to get every single one you want saved into the database, which wouldn't be as hard. It's just like an additional step to what we're doing. But at this point, you should be able to figure that out. So exports.marvel.comics is equal to async request response, which is, yep. And now we're going to say try catch. For try, we're going to say const all comic data is equal to. So this is where we're going to be pushing all the data we get from the API. And now we're going to loop through it. So if you had more than one here, this is the proper way to loop through it. You can do it for just one also. It's kind of overkill if you do it this way for just one, but I'm implementing this procedure so if you picked more than one comic name, you would know how to loop through all of them. So for const name of comic names, there we go. And now we want to say const Marvel comic response. So this is the response we're going to be getting, is await, because it's going to be a asynchronous function that get, and we're going to be doing this. Cool. Now what we want to get is we're going to be plugging in that API that we need. So if we come over here for this, we're using comics. So if you come down here to comics, you want to fetch all the list of comics, but we're going to be doing it using the title. So we're going to be using this title, not title starts with, just title. So if we were to do that and hit try it out, I'm currently not logged in, but this is the request URL that you're going to be using, and then you'll plug other things in. So I would say log into this. As you can see, I'm not logged in. Just log in. It'll give you your API, and then for title, you can search in like Wolverine or something like that, and then try it out. It's going to show you how to get it, including your API key and everything. So as you can see, this says title equals Wolverine and API. I already have mine done. Now, one other thing you should note is in my personal one, I have only 12 issues showing. I limited it to 12. So meaning if I come down to here, if I come back down to here, you can limit this. You can limit the result set to specified number of resources. So I limited it to 12. So if I hit 12 and I hit try it out, as you can see, it's going to do this: comics title, comics, the query is title is equal to Wolverine, and limit is equal to 12. And then it's going to ask for your API key. So this is exactly what we're doing here. So I already have mine set in my other project, in my main project. So I'm just going to copy that. That way I don't even have to like worry about typing all that out again. But you guys, when you do it, you can just copy it from here. So let's see, where's my controller, Marvel controller.
Music licensing reimagined.
Let's see, where are we at? There we go. Is this what we're looking for? No comic names. Here we go. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm just going to paste this over here. Cool. So as you can see, it's the same thing. Comics is title. The title is going to be the name, which is Wolverine. Um, so it's going to be title is equal to, we're going to use name because it's this name, timestamp, API key, and the hash. And here we have the limit. So make sure you have all this in the same order, unless it's probably not going to work the best. So I'm just going to raise this up a bit so you guys can see exactly what's going on. Let's close out of this. So just make sure you have it in this particular order, unless it's not going to work. So as we move forward, now we can say const comic data is equal to Marvel comic response dot data. And by doing so, we can now say if comic data dot total is not equal to 0, meaning if the data we get back, if the total number of data we get back is not equal to 0, meaning there was actually data present, then we want to push that. Then we want to push that all comic data dot push. So we want to push it to this all comic data empty array. That's what this is saying. So now comic data. Awesome. So by doing so, we can now anytime we get this data, we can now push it into this empty array. It's going to hold on to our data for us. Cool. So now we can easily, let's make sure over here. Okay, cool. So now we can easily res.send. This is just to show you what's going on. Let's see, res.send. What do we call it? All comic data. And then let's go into our routes. So we're going to be doing this simultaneously. So for routes, we're going to have Marvel route.get slash should be, let's say slash comics slash
music licensing reimagined.
Marvel slash comics slash, what do we call it here? I just want to make sure I'm using the same thing like always. Slash comics. Yeah, just slash comics. So slash comics. And this should be Marvel Comics. Cool. So if we come over here and say localhost 3000 slash Marvel slash comics. Sorry, that should be localhost 5000. Cannot get Marvel slash comics. Why is that so? Let's see. Because it's a comic, not comics. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, this is our data. As you can see, Wolverine, Sabretooth, blah, blah, blah. This is what we want. So that shows that we're sending the correct data. This is going to be pushing the correct data to our front end. We're going to be sending this to the server. So this is exactly what our front end is going to be grabbing. So before this step, though, what we can do now is say, let's make another for loop. For const data of all comic data, what we want to say is const results is equal to data.data.results, and const comic data is equal to new comic.
Music licensing reimagined.
Let's see, there we go. So what we just did was we just imported this comic from our model here. So what we were trying to say is now we're trying to save it to the database is what we're trying to do. So we're going to say new comic, and for this new comic, we're going to be, it's basically what we're doing here is adding our schema. It's like adding another schema to what's going to be saved in the database. So once again, I'm just going to come down here because I'm trying to condense this to be as fast as possible. So Marvel Comics, not model, we have to go to controller. So Marvel controller, where are we? Comics data. Here we are. So this is what we're trying to do. So we're trying to grab all this. So code is equal to data code, status is equal to data status. There should be a simpler way to do this. However, I'm trying to make sure you guys understand the basics of what we're doing before I try and do that. Let's see what's going on here. Expected, blah, blah, blah.
Reimagined.
Let's see. What are we doing wrong? Let's see. This is why I like using. Oh, okay. We didn't close out data, I guess. There we go. This is why I like using the same thing, so it's easier to debug. That way it doesn't take us an hour to debug anything. But here we're saying for comic data, we want to add this into our database. We want to save it this way into our database. So like I just said, we come down here and we say await, because it's asynchronous, comic data dot save. Cool. Now we can send it. So now we can send res dot send all comic data. So now we're done. So anytime we send this, it saves into our database. So before we do it, let's just say console.log error res.status 500.send. So if it's a 500 error, then we're going to say internal server error. Cool. So let's look at our database. So if we refresh this, there should be a new friend in there. There we go. Here we have comics. So nothing's in there currently because we didn't send it. So now if we refresh this, we've now sent it again to the server. By doing so, if we come back to our database and refresh the database, voila, we have this. So as you can see, the limit was 12, and we should have 11 objects, which is 12 because it starts from 0. And there we go. So we have that. So that's pretty much the idea of what we're doing here. So let's go back in here. And now, how do we access this database? So we want to do the same thing that we did when we accessed the hero page and say comic database is equal to async request response try catch const database is equal to awaits comic. So we're going to use the comic capitalized, there we go, because that's the one that pertains to our model. So comic.find, we want to be able to find anything we search for, and res.send what's it called, res.send database.
Music licensing reimagined.
So we want to send everything within the database and return. When we do so, we want to be able to return the status, res.status of 200. So that would say that we have, it's a successful response. So I want to catch error. So console.log
artlist.io
error. Cool. So now we can come back to routes and just come down here one. Let's see, /database, and this would be comics. What did we call it? Comic database. Comic database. So you get the basic idea of what we're doing. Now, what if we want to, let's go back to our personal, the main project. So now, what if we want to be able to search for something within here? How do we search? So here we search Blade, and we're able to get, well, the server's asleep again, so it's gonna kick in a few. But while it's loading up, how did we get Blade to populate when we search for it? Because we need some kind of link to the API to do so. So we need to have the ability to search for whatever, whether it be within characters or comics. Right now this is not loading up because I'm using a free server and it's very slow. So let's just go back to this and let's figure that out. So now we want to be able to search for something, right? So let's see, exports.comic search. We want to be able to search for a comic in particular. So let's say request response const. So this constant is going to be coming from our front end. We're going to call it comic name. So right now it's not going to be present because we don't have our front end set up for it. So it's going to say request. We're requesting it from the body, and that's coming from our front end. But we can write out the logic for it without having the actual front end built out yet. So here we're going to say await axios.get. Once again, it's asynchronous, so we're doing the same thing. In here, what we want to do is, if we come back here, now we want to search via, what did we use to search for this? Was it, I think it was also title. Yes, so let's make sure. So when we come down here, yep, we use title. So I'm just going to copy this again, and I'll show you that it's not that far off from what we did at the top here. So remember when we did this one, it was title is equal to name. However, we had that name preset. It's Wolverine. Everything else stays the same. But here, the only difference, everything here stays the same, even the limit. The only thing that's different is for this title here, we're going to be using what's coming from our front end, which is comic name. So we're just going to plug in comic name into this and we're all set. So it's going to automatically search for that. So now we can say res.send response data, because that's all we want. We want our server to receive, we want to send this to the server so the front end can get a hold of it. And here we just want to say console.log error, just that simple. So we don't need any database set up for this. It's just what we're getting from the search. So here we're going to come down one and say Marvel routes dot post, because it's going to be a post method, and we're going to be saying slash comic slash search, and this should be comic search. Let's make sure we have the same thing here. So if we don't, we're just going to call it that same thing, post comic search. Yep, so we have the same thing. So comic slash search. So this is a post because we're posting it. We're not getting this information, we're posting the information. It's going to be different than the rest of this. So anytime we have a search, it's most likely going to be a post, because that's the action being required. So we're basically done with our comic search, just like that. Now we can go to character name. So now we're going to be working with character. This was Marvel Comics. This was comic names. So now we want to deal with the character. So we're going to say character name. Let's use lowercase, camel case method. Character name. And this is going to equal Spider-Man. We have to be careful how we spell this. So let's use lowercase for everything. Just because if it's not in the database in Marvel written this way, then it's not gonna give us any data back. So exports.character is equal to async request response try catch, like we always do. And here we're going to say const character data is equal to, once again, an empty array, because that's where we're going to be pushing it. Now we want to say for, because we got to loop through it, character data, not this character data, just character data. No, sorry, for what am I doing here? Okay, for name of, not character data, character name. There we go. For name, for, it has to be constant. For a constant name of character data, there we go. Constant Marvel Hero. So I just named it Marvel Hero. You can name it Marvel Character. I named it Marvel Hero because they're all superheroes. So await axios.get. And once again, I'm just going to go here and grab the API that I used. Marvel character. Where is it? There we go. Marvel character. So you're going to see right now that it's basically the same thing again. This time we're using characters. So if we come down here, the only difference now is we're no longer using title. Actually, we're not even using comics anymore. So let's move out of comics. We're using characters now. So let's go to characters. It's the first one. And we're going to be using name. Is it name starts with or just name? Let's see. Name starts with. So we're going to be using name starts with because it's going to give you a plethora of options. If you just put like SP, you can get Spider-Woman, Spider-Man, Spider whatever. So name starts with. So let's say Spider. And then the limit as usual is going to be 12, and then try it out. And it's going to give you this. So this is what we're going to be using. But remember to use it the same. Remember to keep the order the same way it is here, unless you might run into problems. So name starts with name, timestamp, public key, hash, and then the limit. It's very particular. So Marvel Hero, and then like what we've always been doing. Now you want to say where are we? Const data is equal to Marvel Hero data, and then you can say if data total does not equal to 0, meaning if there's actual content, then we want to push that content to character data. Character data push data.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay, so if blah blah. Cool. Now we want to say the same way we've been doing this whole time, const data of character data, const results is equal to data results. We just want the results here. We want to say const character data is equal to new character. So we want to get it from our, oh, did we export that? Let's see what we exported it as. So come back to our model, character, did we export it? We export it as characters. So let's see.
Music licensing reimagined.
There we go. Okay, so let's redo this. So let's change this to lowercase. Let's change this to uppercase, lowercase, and uppercase. Okay, so we're just gonna leave it as new characters. So I guess maybe because there's a timestamp, it doesn't change. But let's see if it doesn't work, then we'll be able to further debug it. But if it does, then we just know it's just the color preference, I guess, because we use timestamp. So basically we're doing the same thing. It's just code, data.code, that kind of thing. The same thing we did earlier. Once again, I'm just gonna copy it from here. Let's see, where is it? There we go. I'm just gonna copy it from here. So it's the same thing we have. You can just copy it from the one you had previously, which is right here. It's pretty much, yeah. So I'm just gonna keep this here so you can copy it from here. So this is all we're gonna be needing. So you just copy this. I guess because it's character, you only need this much. We don't need any actual other thing. So you just copy what I have, await. If you don't want to copy what I have, you can go ahead and look at the API response and pick and choose the ones you want. It's pretty much the same thing. Same thing, but you can you might not need some of the information I have. You'll be able to condense it even further. So now we're gonna save it and res.send. So this is how we know if it did work. Character data. So let's console.log error here.
Music licensing reimagined.
Oh, console.log error, and then res.status 500.send internal server error. Cool. All right, so now let's head over to routes,
Artlist.io.
Marble routes, and we're going to come down here, and this is going to be a get. This is going to be character. That should just be character, and this should be
Music licensing
character.
reimagined.
Cool. So now let's come over here and say marble/character. Is it character or characters? Character. Let's see if it sends. Internal server error. So we have an error. Let's head over here. Let's refresh this. Character data. So nothing was sent over. So there is a character that save is not. It's not a function. That is true. Because it should be character data. So this character data dot save. So when we send it, it should be sending character. Yeah, I did not name this properly. Wait, hold up. Yeah, this should not be character data. This should be lowercase character data. Yeah, so when you're doing a naming convention, it should be a little bit better than this. I just have character data all over the place. So you can copy along, but next time you want to do a project similar to this, just don't have it the same way. So as you can see, it works perfectly. If you go to the database and refresh this, bam, it works perfectly.
Artlist.io.
So now we have that one. Now, like we always do. Now, how do we get it from the database? That's going to be the next thing. So what I want to do is, I'm just going to copy this part and paste it here. And this is going to say character database, and it should be character. Let's see, where do we call it? Once again, let's see if we have everything the same way. It should be character DB, and we just called it. Okay. Character DB should just be characters. Let's just make sure. Is that what we call it here? Yep, that's what we call it. So characters. So our model's name is characters. So characters res.sendDB, and that's all we're gonna change, and we're all set. So now if we come down here again, it's one down / database, and this should be character database. Cool. So now we're able to extract that from the database via our front end. Yeah. Okay, so lastly, what we want to do is say exports, and now we want to get the search. We're going to call it character search is equal to async. Actually, rather than doing all this, let's just make this easier and grab this and bring it down here. So we're going to change comic search to character search. And this is going to change to character name. I'm going to change this to character name. And that's it. We're all done. So now if we go over to here, so sometimes we got to work smarter, not harder. So let's just take this out. Let's grab this. So marvel.post, and this would be character / search. And this should be character search. And voila, just like that, we're all done. So we're all done with the with our controller for right now, at least our Marble controller for right now.
Artlist.io.
So let's go back to our front end. So we're done with the back end for this moment. So let's head over to our front end. So like I said earlier, in our front end, what we want to do actually is install React icons. So if you come over to the npmjs.com or just
Music
Google
licensing
React icons
reimagined.
and go over here to the npm one, I'll just copy this, come right down here and paste it over here. There we go. And then we want to do the same thing for Material UI, so we can close out of npm. Now we can close. Now we can get this. So just go to mui.com / material.
Artlist.io.
Basically, just search up Material UI, stay signed out, and just click on one of them, preferably the first one. And then it says Get Started, and it's a library of React UI components. Basically, that's what it is. So it's going to help our front end
Music
build.
licensing reimagined.
Let's see, where is installation? Actually, there used to be an easier way to install this. Let's see. Let's go back. There we go. npm install right here. Just copy that and paste that over here. Cool. So while we're at it, what we're going to be using this for is, let's search here, mobile. And it's going to show us a handful of them. So if you click this, it shows this modal. And then this one has a child model within it. And then you can close this. And it shows us a bunch of them is what it's trying to say. I think we're just going to use the first one, just this one. So this is what we're getting from this. And the reason we're using it is we can close out of this now. And we can close out of this. So the reason we're using it is because this is the main, Blade finally showed up. So let's click on it. Oh, not this one. Sorry. We're going to be using it for characters. So if I click on this, for example, as you can see, it pops up and it shows me. This one has no description, but let's go to Hulk. Let's see if Hulk has a description. Actually, it's going to take another while. So let's find one with a description. Okay, as you can see, it pops up. It says Spider-Man House of M, has the picture, and it has the description. So that way, once we click it, even if we're on mobile, it just pops up with this and we're done. We're going to explain this little heart later, but this is what a modal is. Modal. Let me know how you pronounce it in the comment section. Is it the first one, modal, or the second, modal? So that's what this is doing. And we're getting it using this because we're lazy and we don't want to type everything. So here you want to hit expand code, and you want to make sure you're picking JavaScript. We're not using TypeScript, so JavaScript. And we're just going to be using this. But we're not doing that right now. We just want to show you. So for this, in our client, for for our source components, we're going to be making something called
Artlist.io.
Is it headline? Yeah, let's rename this. So let's rename it to headline nav. And then change this to headline nav. Like that. So
Music
now,
licensing reimagined.
okay, that's all we had. That's the only place we have to change it. So app.js, we're good. Yeah. So let's see. Context, config, blah, 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 blah. I should say headline nav. Cool. So now let's go to our pages, and right at the bottom of our hero page, we want to have the headline nav.
Artlist.io.
I want to save that. So now if we come down here, it's probably overshadowing it, but we want that headline nav to show down there. So let's come over to headline nav, and in headline nav, we're going to be grabbing that model. Actually, not that same model. Here, let's see. Let's open a new browser. Let's copy this and paste it in there. Cool. So we don't want the model anymore. We want tabs. There we go. We want this tab. So we want a basic tab. Let's see. Do we want it colored?
Artlist.io.
Let's see. Which one did I use? Just to make sure, because there are a lot. We can use any of them. I just want to make sure we're using the same one. Okay. So after looking it over, it seems like we're just going to be using the full width tab. So we want the full width tab here, and like always, you just come over here, show code. You want the JavaScript code, and what we're gonna do is just gonna copy this, and let's go back here, and in our headline nav, we're just gonna paste it in there. So let's do this first. Cool. So let's have everything over there first. As you can see, let's take all this out, and let's just keep this as is at this moment. So we have all this. We're just going to be changing this. Let's take this out. Let's cut it out, and we're going to have const headline nav. Cool. From here, we're going to have export default. I'm going to take this out. It's going to be headline nav. And we don't need this. So if we do npm run start, okay, so let's see. Let's configure this. I'm just going to use the same thing I have here, but I'm going to do it with you guys so that you understand what's going on. Let's see, tab panel, headline nav. Okay, so this is what we don't need. So we don't need that. I can easily just like configure this without having to look at the other one. It's a lot easier to debug when you have a reference. So let's just keep doing this. So headline nav. We have to have taken a lot of things out of here. Swipeable views. It said we didn't need that.
Artlist.io.
So let's do this. Okay, let's see. Box. We need that. We don't need the app bar.
Artlist.io.
Okay. And what else do we need? So we don't need swipeable views.
Music licensing reimagined.
Oh, tab value we did need. So that's the thing about Material UI. It's a lot of configurations. That's why I seldomly use it, because you have to configure a lot of things. Okay, so we don't need all this part. We need tab label, tabs. We don't need swipeable views, but we need the tab panel. Okay, cannot swipeable views. We don't need. We don't need this. And it says 56, 54 down. It's probably the configurations. Yep, we don't need this. Cool. Okay, so that's all we needed. Let's see, for value, we still don't need this. No, let's see how it goes. We might add something to it, but yeah, that's the basic configuration for it. So test. As you can see, that's the basic configuration. So we can keep this part, the direction. What we want to do here is, did I say centered?
Music licensing
So let's take this,
reimagined.
and we're going to be saying we want the width to be 100%. So we want it to cover the whole width just for the mobile. Background colors, background paper, so we have that. So we can take these two out. And we want the padding to be 5. And we can take this part out. Yep. So it's padded, as you can see. So now we just need to make it centered. And I believe that is done. Yep, value. So we just add centered here. And that's it. And now we have it centered. So we have the same thing we have in my original, which is here. So that's all we need. And item 1 says item 1 here. So we're going to change that. Before we do, we got, for the components, we have to add comics.jsx. Oh, we already have that. Okay, we already have that. So we don't have to worry about it. Cool. So headline, we have that already. So what we want to do now is say, where is this headline? We have this. Okay, handle change, handle index. Okay, we don't care about that right now. So let's say use effect, because all this is going to happen upon load. So we're going to say use effect. We're going to say const fetch data equal to the sync cool. And this is going to say const data is equal to await axios.get, and we're going to be using that backend config that we have here, this backend URL. That's what we're going to be using. So backticks backend URL /marvel /comic /database. And we're doing so because if you remember in our server with our views and our Marvel route here, that's what we called the database. Remember, we're pulling the information from the database. So that's what we have here. And then we're going to set, so let's come up here and we're going to be using
music licensing reimagined.
use state. Okay. We're also going to be importing Axios. Cool. Okay, so what else did we need? Okay, so let's say const, what are we going to call it? So for our state functions, we're just going to call it comic data and set comic data. Use state. Let's use this. There we go. So it's going to be an array of objects. Okay. Okay. Now we can set comic data. So equals data dot data. So right at the bottom here, we're just going to call the fetch data, and we're going to give it empty array as the dependence. Cool. So we have this. So what we want to do now is make another one for the character data. So let's come down to const character
Artlist
data
IO.
set character data and make that equal to use state, and it's going to be the same exact thing, an array of objects. Cool beans. So for this,
Music licensing
we're going to be using another
reimagined.
use effect. So let's just bring this down here, 1. And for this one, it's going to be pretty much the same thing, except we're going to be using character slash database. And we're going to be setting character data. Bam. And we're all set. So we don't really need this.
Artlist IO.
What's it saying? Missing dependency. I don't believe it is. Okay, so as you can see here, it says where are we?
Music licensing
Okay, let's just
reimagined.
do this. Here it says item 1, item 2, item 3. In our main one, we just have comics and characters, so we're gonna change that. We don't need 3, we just need 2. So if we take that out, as you can see, why didn't that work? Okay, let's take that out again. Save it. Nothing there. Cool. Now we can just take out the label here.
Artlist IO.
And it says item 1 and item 2. Item 1, item 2. That's all we're doing here. So item 1, item 2. Those are the only 2 things we need. But we don't want to call them that either. So we're going to call this one. First of all, we're going to call this comics.
Artlist IO.
And then we're going to call this characters. And we're going to change this up. And we're going to change this up. So if you look here, comics, characters. That's all we need from those 2.
Music
So
licensing
here,
reimagined.
value, blah, blah. What we're going to need is to get that comics, we're going to be passing a prop here. So this comics is what we're going to be importing. Comic. Interesting. So let's come back up here. We got to do everything manually. Comics
Artlist IO.
from components slash comics. So now when we import it, where are we?
Music licensing reimagined.
Did we do it right? Yep. Okay. So comics, and now we want to pass the prop. And when we pass the prop, that's going to be comic data is equal to comic data. So we're going to be passing comic data. And voila. So we're done with that part. For here, it's going to be character data. Character data is equal to
Artlist IO.
character data. Webm. Character data is not defined. That's because this should not be character data. It should just be characters. Let's see if we can do this over.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay, so characters from components slash characters. So if we scroll back down here, characters, there we go. Okay, we're all set. So here we're just gonna be passing props. And all that means is whatever's showing here in characters and comics gets passed into this space. So this is gonna be showing in place of so basically we took characters and popped it in there. However, we're using data that we got from here to work with what's gonna be showing here. If that makes sense. let me know in the comments if you want a more detailed explanation. I don't think I've talked about props here as much. Maybe in my news data, um, in my news application, but not thoroughly. So if you want me to touch more on that, just let me know. But for the sake of time, let's just keep chugging through. So we're all done with this part. So now we can close out of the tab part, but just leave the modal part open because we're going to be using that next. So let's start with comics. All right, guys. So we're going to be starting off with comics instead of characters because actually, if we come back up here, you'll see that comics is relatively easy. When you click on it, it goes right to the URL of that comic, but there's no model. Like for example, if you click on this, a modal opens up, but not for comics. Comics just takes you to the URL. I don't want to click it because that, well, whatever. So if you click it, it takes you to another browser to see the whole comic, whatever. So yeah. But actually, let's do that again. Yeah, so it takes you to this browser. So that's how we configure that. We didn't add a modal to it, or modal. We didn't add that to it. Comics, however, has that. So this is a little bit harder to build out. So we'll start with comics, and it's the first tab here. So we'll start with this, and the way to go about that is, so let's sign into this also, is, so we come here to comics. Let's use the whole width of the screen. And what we want to do is, let's take out comics first. So you guys remember when we created let's actually pop over here to the headline nav. So remember when we fetched the data and then we said we're going to pass it as a prop? So we're going to be using this comic data within this. So the way we do that is we're going to pass it in this way and say comic data. And just like that, we have our comic data. And by doing so, we also want to use state because we're going to be passing state properties. So here we're going to say comic name and set comic name. Use state.
Artlist.io.
Searched comic data and set searched comic data. Kind of a long one, but state, use state. And this is just going to be in an array, empty array.
Music licensing
Cool.
reimagined.
Okay, so it did not import. So import use state. Well, we could have just imported it up here, but it's all good. So we do this, and then right before we return anything, we also want to say const handle submit because we're going to be creating a form. So if we look up here, see how we have this search form here? We want to create that within our comics. So we're going to be using handle submit is equal to async. Hopefully Axios imports automatically. So async e.prevent default. And with all the projects we've been doing, you should know what this is doing. It should actually, it should be in here. So this should be second nature by now, creating a form. I've pretty much done that in all my other projects. Is it capitalized? I don't think it's ever been. Has it always been capitalized?
Artlist.io.
Huh. No, it's not. That's what I thought. I was like, actually, it's never been capitalized. I don't know why it's doing that.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay, so await Axios dot get. Oh, it's going to be dot post because it's going to be a form. Dot post, and we're going to be using that backend configuration again. So it's going to be backend URL /marvel/comic/database. So we're posting to this route. And if you remember, we have this /marvel/comic. Oh, it should be search, not database. Yeah, search. But then I looked at that again. So it should be /search because that's the post. That's where we're posting. So we're using that. And then we're going to be passing on the state called comic name. So we're going to be doing this. Let's see. Because we're going to be passing something through cookies and things like that, we're going to be passing credentials. We need to come over here and say axios.default with credentials, and we want to allow that. So we're going to say true. So this is going to allow this property to be passed on to the backend. Cool. So we're going to have that, and now we want to say const search data is equal to a response dot data. So we can also console log it, search data if we want, and console console.log error. Actually, let's use console.error. We'll get to this. So we're not done with this part. So now you want to give it some logic. We want to say if search data and search data dot data and search data dot data dot results dot length is greater than 0, then we want to set search comic data to search data dot data dot results. So we're doing this whole thing just to say for set searched comic data, it should have search data dot data dot results. So the results that we're looking for here should be attached, should be within the set searched comic data property or state. So like I always said, if that doesn't make sense, just let me know in the comment section and I'll like try and explain it better. So else set searched comic data should be, so if all this doesn't happen, then set search comic data to be an empty array, and then window.alert, so alert that there's no results found. So when we search for something, so let's say we search for Blade. If we search for Blade via the comic name and the data results is greater than 0, meaning there's data to be seen, then we want to save that data within set search comic data. If not, our set search comic data should be an empty array, and we should be alerted that there was no results found. So now we're just going to say for the comic name. So no results found for Blade, for example. Now, okay, let's do this. Cool. So it will just say for that person. Now, if the character has a second name, which most Marvel characters do, such as Peter Parker, Spider-Man. So see how there's a hyphen? Try using a hyphen. Fulamante.
Artlist.io.
Cool. Error. So here we're just going to say console.error. Is it okay? So just to expound on what this is. So if there's no result found for whatever comic name, we're going to alert the user that, hey, you're not getting any data because there's no result found. But it's not that there's now we're going to explain to the user that it might just be a syntax error, meaning you probably just didn't put this hyphen in between. Because if you go into the database and you say Peter Parker and you don't put this hyphen, it's not going to show you anything. It's not going to recognize it because there has to be this hyphen there. So we're letting the user know, like, hey, try using a hyphen. Now, if you use a hyphen, it doesn't work. That user doesn't exist. That character doesn't exist. So console.error, we're going to say error occurred while fetching data. And yeah. And after doing all this, now we want to set comic name to an empty string. So within this handle submit, you want the comic name to be an empty string. Now, before going further, before actually seeing it on the front end, we want to say const comics to render. And we want to say search comic data dot length is greater than 0. Then searched comic if search comic data dot length is greater than 0, then show me the searched comic data, right? So if we actually have data to be shown, then show me the data if it's greater than 0, meaning there's actual data. Or else comic data dot results
Music licensing reimagined.
or this. So that's all we're doing. So now let's set up our class name, and like always, it's width full and height full. And we're gonna have another div, class name, width full, height full. Want to flex it and justify end. And I always say you can always change this to whatever you want in terms of CSS. It doesn't necessarily have to be the one I have. So here for the form, we want to say unsubmit, and we're going to be using this handle submit. Handle submit. There we go. And within the form, now we want to build everything out. We want to say input class name, background transparent, focus, outline none, border B, text black, cursor pointer. We don't need that. We'll just do this instead. There we go. And let's see if we have it here. Oops, wrong one. So comics, it's not showing yet. So let's keep working on it. We want the text. We want the type to be text. And now we want the placeholder to be search. So let's see, anything? Yep, there we go. There we have it right there. Cool. Now value, we want the value to be comic name. So whenever we type in a comic name, we want the value to be in there. So actually, let's use a length. So is it Shift Option F? Yep, there we go. And here we're gonna say on change, and our on change is gonna be e set comic name
Music
e dot
licensing
target
reimagined.
dot value. And we've gone over this multiple times within what's this, set comic names? What is it called? Line 32. Okay. So we've gone over this on change multiple times in our other projects. So you can look to that to get a better explanation of what's going on. And then now button, because we want a button, class name, text white, background we want it to be green with a 500, rounded, medium, p 1.5, margin
Music
2.
licensing reimagined.
Cool. There it is. That's the button we want. However, we're going to be using React icons. So remember when we basically installed React icons? So now we're going to be importing AI outline. What's it called? Search. AI outline search. Yeah, from React icons, and it's going to be React icons AI. That library. I'm in that folder. So let's see. Okay, so now let's see if we actually did it right. So now we're going to be using AI outline search. Correct. Shift Option F. Well, we can't do that yet. Okay. Class name, text 2.0 vmin.
Music licensing reimagined.
Cool. So let's see if this works. There we go. That's our search. Cool. All right. This is all within our form. That is correct. And it's all within one div. Cool. And that's our search. So now we can create another div, class name with full, type full. We're going to be using a grid column 2. Is it called? Is it column? Yeah, calls 2. There we go. And then for our medium screen and up, we want grid with the columns of 3 and a gap of 4. For our medium and up, we want a padding of 5 and a padding of 1. Okay, all right. So comics to render dot map comic index
Artlist.io.
There we go. Okay, so that's the proper way of doing it. So now we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. So Shift Option F. There we go. We're going to say comic thumbnail. Let's close this out. However, we're going to open this over here.
Artlist.io.
And then we're going to say href. And for the href, it's going to be comic.url. Just the same way we did with hero page. With the hero, we're going to be using the .urls and this. So the only difference is we're not going to be using current item index. So when we come back here, it's going to be the same thing, except we're going to be using comic.url, first one, and URL. So, and then the target. So don't worry about the error right now. It's because we didn't close the tag. So this is gonna be blank, and then we're gonna have this, and it's gonna be no opener, no refer. Cool. And now we can close it, and we're all set. So within it, we're gonna have the image. So the image class name is gonna be padding. It's gonna have a padding of 5. When we hover on it, it's gonna scale to 105. Let's go back here. Transition and transform. Cursor. You want the cursor to be pointer. There we go. Cool. And now we want the source to be comic.thumbnail.path. And this I'm getting from the API documentation. This is how we were told to get the thumbnail. So if you go over to, if you just search thumbnail Marvel API, it'll show you the documentation and how to go about it. Or you could just copy this. So this is extensions. Cool. So this is the same way it tells you to do it. Now we have one last thing, the alternate. We're just going to call it comic.title. And shift. Okay. Shift option. That looks nice and good. Okay, so I saw something like this coming. Can I read properties undefined? 0. Let's see. Yes. Search data and search data.data. And search data.data.results. Okay, let's do this. And search data.data.results. Let's see if that fixed it. Nope. Can I read properties of undefined at 73? Let's take this out and let's see if anything works. Okay, so as you can see, it does work for some reason. Oh, I see it. So I can't spell. That's the problem. So thumbnail. Close. I don't know why that was open. Test, sign in. There we go. Okay, I was like, what's going on here? So I couldn't spell. That was a problem. So as you can see, we have all our characters here. I mean, all our comics here. So we can just close out of this. So we're all set. So we have all the Wolverine that we need here. So we are set. So now let's see if we get, let's see, extension. Yeah, we already saw this. So let's see if we get, now if we type in Blade. Okay, we're in business. It works. Okay, so this works, and as you can see, now we can take out that console log. So let's come over here and take this console log off. Awesome. Wait, hold up. Oh, we didn't even finish this. So this should be console.error. And then this should be error. There we go. Yeah, we did not finish. And then set searched comic data. We want this to, yeah, that's correct, to be an empty array. And then window.alert, same thing here. We're just gonna copy this and paste it here.
Artlist.io.
Cool. So now we're done with that. So this is what this should look like. Forget I didn't finish that up. So here we go. So this works perfectly, as you can see. Now you can just mess around with the CSS if you want. So now if we click on this, we get the same thing. Cool.
Artlist.io.
Yeah. So let's click on it. Digital issue. And more blade. Cool. Now close out.
Music
Now that we
licensing
have this,
reimagined.
what we can now do is say h2 class name text center. We can now have a comic title. So if we look now, the title of the comic is down here. And like always, play with the CSS if you want. You can change the color, whatever you want to do with it. But that's pretty much all we're doing for comics. So comics is kind of the easy one. It gets a little harder once it gets to characters. So let's head on over to characters. So let's close out of all this. And let's come over here to, oh, we're not in the server anymore. Let's come over here to characters. So for characters, we just slide on over here. And the reason why characters is going to be harder, so we need material UI. And remember I said we're going to be using modal, M-O-D-A-L. Yep, we're going to be using this. And we're just going to be using a regular. Just expand this code and pick JavaScript. Okay, guys. So before we go into the characters and build that out, what we want to do is actually come over to model, back to the server, to the model, and we're going to be creating something called saved items.js. And what we're doing here is if we go to the original project, once you come to characters, that's why I said characters is a little bit more tricky. You have the ability to save things, right? So for example, here there's nothing saved. Let's just refresh that. So I think the server went to sleep because it wasn't being used. But the basic idea is you should be able to save whatever character you click on. So you see, when you select a character, you can save that character to a tab named the save tab. So when you do that, you're able to save it and delete it. So that's what we're trying to get out of this saved items model. So it's going to ask me to sign in again because it timed out. So when we sign in, so characters, so let's say for example Spider-Man house, actually let's see if there's anything in there first. So we have Miles Morales in there. So if we go back to home and we go to characters, if we go to House of M and we click on this heart-shaped button, it's going to say character saved successfully. Okay, so now if I go to saved, as you can see, Spider-Man House of M has been saved here. So think of it as like your cart when you use an e-commerce site such as Amazon. When you click on a cart, when you click on an item or something you want to purchase and you save it to your cart, just imagine this saved being your cart. So this is what we're going to build out. So let's jump right into it. So for saved item, what we're going to be doing is saying const mongoose, like always, require mongoose. And then we want to say const saved. Yeah, let's make a camel case. Saved content schema is equal to new mongoose dot schema. Cool. And now we want to say user, and this user is going to have the type called mongoose dot schema dot types dot object ID, and it's going to have a reference to the user. So it's just going to say user. And this is a reference to the user model. So when you go back here, you remember you have users here, and this is the user. So you're going to have, anytime you save something, so if I'm logged in here as test, so whenever I save something within test, within my profile, it's going to associate that to my profile name, to my actual profile, and save it there. So if I sign in as Akeen, for example, I can't see what test is. So let's try that. So let's register, username, AKIN, test, register. Profile created, no, and test. So when we sign in and we go to saved, as you can see, there's nothing saved within my character. So that's what reference is. That's what reference does. And now we want the item type. And the item type is going to be string and enum. These are the two we want. You can add more depending on what your project calls for. So enum is a JavaScript data type. So now we're going over to character ID, and this is how we know what character is being stored. So require, and we need it. We need this, so it's required. Unless we wouldn't know what's being stored. Now character name, we're gonna set it to string. Image URL, we're gonna set it to string. Description, we're gonna set it to string. And we're gonna timestamp it. So we want to know when certain things were saved. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Now we want to say const saved content is equal to mongoose.model saved content. Gotcha. Saved content. And then it's going to say, and now this is, so we're saving it as saved content, and then this is going to be saved content schema. Cool. And now we got to export this. So module.export is equal to saved content. And that's all we're doing here. So we're pretty much done with our model. So now we have to run over to our where is it? Model saved user.js. So we're done with model. Okay, we're going to controller. So now we're coming back to our auth controller. And remember, this is what allows us to log in and everything. So now what we want to do is we want to create something called exports.save character. We want to be able to save our character. And it's going to be using all the logic we've learned so far. So we're going to say const user ID is request user ID, because remember we did that here to get our user's ID. So like this is where we get who is actually logged in, the data, like the username and everything. Well, mostly the username. I think that's what I set it for. And here we're going to be using things such as character name. We're going to be using character ID. We're going to be using image URL. We're going to be using description. Description. I don't want to have to do it over because of spelling. Request.body. And all this we're going to be getting from the front end. So we haven't had this set yet. So if we go over to model and we go over to saved yeah, we have this here. So we have the character name, image URL. These are things we're going to be also requiring from the body of the front end. So now we can just say try catch const saved content is equal to new saved item. User is user ID. Item type is, how did we have to make sure it's the same way we saved it in here. Was it lowercase? Model. Saved items. So let's see. What are we doing? Item type. Item type is character is capitalized. Cool. Item type. We're gonna be saying we're gonna have it. Actually, it doesn't really matter. Character, because we're just saving it as such, so it doesn't really matter. Character name. Character ID. So these are all the things we're going to be saving. Image, URL, and description. Actually, let's make this capitalized just to keep it uniform. Cool. Now we're going to say await saved content. That's save. So that's going to be saving it. And we want to send a status of 200.json and say message. You guys should already know it's character saved successfully. Yo. So now if we have an error code of 1100, which is basically actually 11,000, which is a MongoDB code. So just, you don't have to worry about that. Just know that it can give you that error key pattern dot character ID. We want to return. So this is a MongoDB error handling that we're doing right now. We want to return a status of 400, which basically just says, did I say 4,400? Which basically just says character with this ID, so it's a duplicate, is already saved. .json. Cool. And then we want to console.log the error and res.status of 500.json, and this says message, it's a server error. Server error. Cool. Okay, so now we have what we need to save the character. So what if we want to remove a character from the database? So now we have to say exports dot remove character is equal to async request response, and this is going to say const character ID is equal to request parameter, so params dot character ID. We want the const user ID. Awesome. And now, okay, so what did we do wrong here? Async. Cool. So now we want to try catch, and for try, we want to say we want to check to see if the character we provided with the ID, if the character with the provided ID, with the provided character ID, belongs to the user. So we just don't want to delete anything from the database. We want to make sure the user ID that we have has the character ID associated with it. So, or vice versa. Yeah. Const deleted character is equal to
Music
await
licensing
saved
reimagined.
item dot delete one, and it's going to be character ID, and the next one is going to be user, which is going to be user ID. Cool. Now we're going to write the logic that says if deleted character dot deleted count is equal to 0, meaning, so once again we're writing this logic in regards to MongoDB. So if the deleted count is 0, meaning nothing got deleted, even though we told it to be deleted, then we want to return a status of 404, meaning there's nothing found there. So there's nothing in there found to be deleted. .json. And this should say character not found. And so character not found. Now if this didn't happen and it did get deleted, then we want to say res.status of 200.json message character removed successfully. There we go. So now it's saying character removed successfully. Let's see, character removed successfully. Okay, so now we can bring this up and say console.error error removing character, and we're gonna have error sent over. And we also want to say res.status of 500.json message server error. Cool. Okay, so a few more things. So now, how do we now get this saved character to show in our it's like the database. To query the database, how do we do so? So exports that get saved characters is equal to the same process, async request response, and we want to say const user ID, because we're going to be using our user ID to get the information. And now we're going to say, as always, try catch. And within a try catch, we're going to say const saved characters is equal to await saved item dot find. Is that what we called it? Saved item? Saved content? Yeah, I think it's saved content.
Music licensing reimagined.
Yeah, we want to query saved content. Okay, so it should be saved content. However, what we can do just to make everything uniform is saved item. So now let's see.
Artlist.io.
Here we go. Saved item. Saved item.
Music licensing
Saved item.
reimagined.
Let's see. Let's make sure everything is copacetic. Yep, saved item. So saved item dot find. Yeah, we just have to change this to saved item, so that way everything works uniformly. Dot find user, and its user is going to be user ID. So we're finding that user via user ID, and when we do, and we find it,
Artlist.io.
when we do find it, it's going to be res.status of 200.json, and it's going to be, we're going to be sending back the saved characters. So we're going to be responding with a JSON of our saved characters. And for the error, we're just going to say res.status. So it's pretty much the same thing as when we were just querying the database and sending the results to the front end. Server error. Cool.
Music licensing.
Okay, now how do we remove the characters? So let's say we want to, just how we hit the log out button, we want to do the same thing here for removing characters. So remove characters. So I'm trying to go as quickly as I can while also trying to make as much sense as possible. Well, trying to be precise and understand and articulate as much as possible, because of the interest of time. I don't want this to go to another part. So request ID is going to be request params.character ID. So we're requesting that parameter. Const user ID again is going to be request user ID. And once again, we're going to be using try catch. And within try, we're going to say const delete character is going to equal await saved item dot delete one, because we want to be specific in what we delete, and we're going to be deleting ID is going to be character ID. I did this wrong, didn't I? So it should be this, and it should say ID, and it should be. Did we save it as? Yeah, character ID. Okay, what's going on here?
Music licensing reimagined.
Let's do this over. Something's off. So let's see. Try catch. Const delete character is equal to await saved item dot delete one. Okay. Got it. ID. Yeah, I know what the problem was last time. And this should be character ID. Got it.
Artlist.io.
And then we're also going to be using user, and it's going to be user ID. So if deleted character dot, remember we're going to be, this is error handling for the database. So if deleted character dot deleted count is equal to 0, then we're going to respond with the res.status of 404 with a JSON saying
Music
message
reimagined.
character not found. However, if it does work, then we're going to say res.status of 200, which is what we like to see. JSON object message character removed or deleted, whatever you want to say. I'm just going to say removed.
Artlist.io.
Now we can do the error console dot error and say error removing character. Cool.
Music licensing reimagined.
Res.status of 500 JSON with the object the message stating there was a server error. Character removed successfully. Okay, let's see. Anything break? Oh,
Artlist.io.
something broke. Saved item. Wait, what? user saved item JSON 8. User is not defined. Let's see. It's most likely because this should be in quotations. Okay, yeah, so I just forgot to put that in quotations. So everything works perfectly. So now I believe in routes. Let's see. Model, controller, views. So it's going to be in just routes. Let me see what I use for the routes here. Entertainment, routes. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to copy all this because and then I'm going to just explain what I did. So here we're going to be seeing routes.post/save character. Make sure you're using this authenticate so that it's still within the authenticate. So it's still within that firewall where you have to be logged in order to do any of this. So, and remember the authenticate's already done. So we're going to be saying save character/save character, which is, let me just close out of this. Auth save character is this one. So exports.save character. So it's going to be /save character, authenticate, save character, saved characters, authenticate, get saved characters, which is get saved characters, and remove character / because we have the parameter of character ID, we're going to be using the parameters character ID. So it's going to be /remove character / the parameter character ID, authenticate, remove character. So now let's just make sure we import all this. Save character, get saved character, remove character. Is it remove characters or character? Ooh, should be characters. Does it matter?
Music licensing reimagined.
So let's just make sure. Remove character. There we go. Okay, so we're all set with our backend. So we should be completely done with the backend right now. So I keep saying that, but we should be done. So now we can actually go into our characters and build this out. Okay, so for characters, this is going to be a little bit longer, but this is going to be our last part. So this is just going to be a tad bit longer. So what we want to do first is we want to make sure that we have over here, we want to say the same way we said we were able to pass credentials. We want to say axios.default.with credentials is equal to true. Okay, now we want to import Axios from Axios. Okay, so it's default. Axios.defaults.with credentials is equal to true. There we go. So we have that out the way. Now we want to start working with characters. And remember what we did in the last one. We want to pass that prop. What did we call it here? We called it character data. So this character data. So upon doing that, we now want to say const. We're going to be using state variables. So we're going to say character name. And this is going to be a lot because we're going to be doing more than just sending data and receiving it. We're also going to be using the models. I don't know what the proper way of saying that is. And now I want to say const searched character data, because we're also going to be creating a form for this. Search character data is equal to use state const open modal set open modal is equal to use state false, because it's not open yet. Const set let's do
Music
selected
licensing reimagined.
image and set selected image, and then use state, and this is going to be null. And here we want to say const is saved for when we do save that image or save the title, save the character, sorry, is saved. And this is going to be use state false.
Artlist.io.
Okay, so we got to import use state from React. Cool. So now we want to use all this. Before doing so, we want to be able to open the model, the modal. So open image modal is equal to
Music licensing
image.
reimagined.
So I don't know why that did that. It's just image. So we're going to be passing image, and it's going to be set selected image, and this is going to be image. And we want to say set is saved to false. And we want to say set open model to true. So this is when we open the modal. And now what about when we close the modal? Well, that's not in here. We want to be able to come down here and say const close image modal is equal to image.
Artlist.io.
Actually, we don't have to pass it. No, we're not passing image because we just want to close it. Then we're just going to say set selected image to null. We're not selecting anything. And set open modal to false. So
Music
the modal is not being
licensing
opened.
reimagined.
Close image never used. So this should say false. There we go. So now we can create our handle submit. So this just pertains to the modal. So just hold on to this and I'll show you how it works when we get to play with it. So now const handle submit is equal to
Artlist.io.
async e.prevent default.
Music licensing
We want to be able to
reimagined.
try catch for true. Okay, so there's already something wrong here. Let's just do that over. So no need to debug. Okay, try. We want to say const response is equal to await axios.post. I remember we're going to be using that backend URL. Let's just import it. I don't know why nothing's importing. From config. So backend slash marvel slash character slash search. There we go. The last one was comic search, I believe. So let's go here. Yep. And remember, we want to be able to pass the character name. Hence why we have this Axios defaults with credentials. So const character name. Cool. Now we want to say const saved data is equal to response dot data. Cool. Now we're saying if saved data and okay, so I'm not about to type this out again. So let's just go to comics and grab this. It's the same thing. We're just gonna get all this from the if statement. So let's go back. Yeah, from the if all the way to catch. There you go. So let's see. So this should be character name. So now we just have to make some changes. Character name, search data is not defined, line 40. So our problem is starting with line 40. It should be searched, set search character data, set searched character data, set searched character data. This should be set searched character data, and search data is not. Let's see. Why is search data not?
Music licensing reimagined.
Oh, this should be searched data, not saved data. Search data. There we go. And comic name. And set comic name 51. Okay, so this should be set character name. Yep. And we're missing one more. So this should be character name. Cool. So just make sure you like debug that and just add what is needed for characters rather than comics. But you can get the logic from comics, so that way we're not spending time building something we already have. So that's pretty much what we need to get done. So we have that. And now we can get into the building of it, into building the front end UI. Okay, so now we want to come in here and say class name width is full, height is full. We want to say div class name width is full, height is full, justify. And so it's basically the same thing we did for the last one. Actually, yeah, why are we doing this over? Let's just come over here and grab this. It's the same thing. Up all the way up to form, we're just gonna grab this, and it's the exact same thing. So we're gonna grab it from comics. It's the same thing we have from form. All we have to do is change this to character name. And where's comic name? It's saying I have comic name somewhere in 65. Yep, this should be character name.
Music licensing reimagined.
And it's saying close image modal. Is this not? Wait, AI outline search. Okay, so all we need now is to grab this, import, and come over here and paste it. Man, we're all set. Cool. So now if we open that app, as you can see, it's there, but it's not where we want it to be. So there's something a bit awry. Let's see what we did wrong. We're just going to use this. We did not add flex. And it should be over here now. There we go. So,
music licensing.
Let's see, where else? Okay, so we're pretty much done with that. So that was pretty easy. Now, let's see. Form, div, then the div. Okay, so now here, we want to have another div. And for this div, we're going to give it a class name of width full, height full, grid, calls to medium. Once again, this is just not working smart, so we just grab this. It's the same thing, I just remembered, and just paste that in there. Okay, so we have this. Now we can say character dot characters to render. Hold up, did we do that here? Search. Okay, so we're just gonna pick this up, and it's gonna be the same thing as comics to render. We're just gonna change these to fit characters, but rather than typing all that out, I'm gonna paste it here. So character data. There we go. So it's the same thing. We're just, if you look, let me put this side by side so you can see it. Comics to render, characters to render, search character data, search comic data, search character data, search comic data, character data, same thing. I think the only difference is rather than data here, you're just going straight to results. So there's no data here, just so omit the data when you come over here and just have it as character data, 0 in the array, question mark, period, results. Rather than here that has comic data, 0 in the array, question mark, dot data. You don't want this dot data for characters. That's the only difference. So characters to render. There we go, characters to render, and we're gonna map through it. And it's gonna be character, and it's gonna be index. So I believe we're using this instead. Cool. Div. Shift Option F. There we go. Now we can put in our div key just like we did in the last one, and it's going to be index, and here it's going to be character dot thumbnail, and so this is just the same way we did the last one, except we're not going to be using href. So image class name. So if you're good enough to just copy things from comics over and figure out a way to make the changes, you can also do that. I just prefer writing the whole thing out so you don't get confused. But you can use mine as a way to debug it when you do that your own way. Hover, scale, and we're scaling it up to 105. Transition, transform, cursor should be pointer, and I don't want to use that. So now we're going to have the source, and we got to be careful here so we don't make the same error we did last time. Character dot thumbnail, so just spell correctly. In fact, let's just use that to spell it for us. Dot character dot thumbnail dot extension, not extensions. So let's see, and then alt should be character dot title. Wait, what's wrong here?
Music licensing.
See, we already started spelling things wrong. Character. Cool. And then yeah, so now we're gonna add an onClick function, and it's going to be, so whenever we click it, we're gonna say open image modal, and it's gonna have, in the modal, it's gonna have the ID, which is character.id. It's going to have the source, which is basically this. You can just copy this again for the source. So what's wrong here? Okay, that's why. So let's do this. There we go. So we're just going to have this as a source. So the syntax needs to be written this way. Okay. And now we can have alt, which would be character dot title. There should be a comma here. There we go. description. So these are all the things that are going to pop out. Description. When oh, there should be a comma again.
Music licensing reimagined.
Yeah, when you click on the image. So this is all that's going to show on the modal. So for description, it's a little different. So we're going to say character.description, or if there's no description, so there's nothing in the database, then you got to say no description available, or whatever you want to say, no description available currently, or whatever. And then the name, it's going to be character dot name. Cool. Okay, so that was a lot. So that's just part of it. So now we're gonna be, let's see, let's go in here, let's see where we at. So now, yeah, now we just want to put in the character name, and then we can start playing around with the modal. So we are here,
Music licensing
character name, blah blah. Okay, so we just want the character name here. So we can say h2, class name, text center, character name.
Artlist.io.
Cool. So let's see if anything actually showed. So test. Okay, so something showed, but once again, we did the source wrong. Extension, thumbnail. So this is an S. There we go. So now we have the same thing. So comics, characters. So let's see if we search in Blade. We have Blade. Cool. So I don't think our modal would work right now. Yeah, nothing works right now when you click it. So yeah. So we have to now get the modal from Material UI. So now we're making use of this. Okay, so before we do the modals, before we import the modal here, there's one more thing we have to do, and that's right after this, before the characters to render, we have to create the save character logic. So when we want to save the character, how do we do so? So const save character is equal to a sync let's just do try catch. Const response is equal to await axios.post backend URL auth save character. There we go. So we're using the save character from the this route, save character route. I don't know why it's so far off. Okay. Save character, and then once again we're going to be passing in character ID, which is going to be selected image dot ID. We're going to be passing character name, which is going to be selected image dot name. We're going to be passing image URL, which is going to be selected image dot src, and then we're going to be description. We're going to be passing on description,
Music
which is
licensing
selected
reimagined.
image dot description. If response dot status is equal to 200, then we're going to say window dot alert response dot data dot message, and the message would be like saved successfully or something, whatever we set it in the back end, and is saved will be set to true. So for the error, we're going to say console.error error saving character,
Music licensing reimagined.
and this is going to be error. We're going to say if error.response and error.response.status is equal to 400, which we set in the backend, window.alert error.response.data.message.
Artlist.io.
Cool. Now we have characters to render, and now we can get the modal. So if we come over here to modal, let's just take it one at a time. So let's just do this.
Artlist.io.
And bring this in here. Just one at a time. The style, we want this. We're just going to put the style right here.
Music licensing reimagined.
And then we'll make changes to this later. Let's bring in, let's see. Let's just take it from modal. So from here. And we're just going to pop this right
Artlist.io.
right here. Let's just make sure. So yep. So we're just gonna pop this right there. And line 147.
Reimagined.
Okay, we'll make all these changes later, but this is practically all we need. So let's change the style up really quickly. So for the style, this is correct, this is correct. The width, let's make the width 85%. And let's just put that in quotations. 85%. And then
Artlist.io.
let's give it a max width of let's say 400 pixels. So what's going on here? So what's wrong
Music
here?
licensing reimagined.
Are we not allowed to have a hyphen? I thought we could have a hyphen. Let's see. Oh, no, we're not. That would make sense. Maxed width. This should be 400 pixels. So this is just so it doesn't take up the whole screen. So you can configure this however you want. And this is so on a small screen, it's set at this. So yeah, that's pretty much all we want to do for the style. Now for the modal, let's run through this. So here, it shouldn't just be open, it should be open modal. We already have that up here. Wait, where?
Artlist.io.
Up here, open modal. So we set open modal to true. So we're popping this in here. Where is it again? Open modal. And on close, we're going to say
Music
close
licensing
image
reimagined.
modal. This is fine. Let's add something called backdrop. Backdrop props. And we're going to say on click, close image modal. So just keep it at that. We have the style. We don't want text in the modal. What we want here is a selected image dot name. So if there's a name, we want that name there, and we want the variant to be h6. We don't really care about this part, the h2 component. You can take that off. Typography. So typography ID, box. Let's see, backdrop, box styling, style. Okay, let's add an image here. Image source, and we're just gonna say selected image (src). So this is where our image is gonna show. We have an alt of selected image dot alt, class name we're gonna say is equal to max width full. Cool. And now we can use this typography ID, and we're gonna say is equal to this. We're gonna change this out. It's gonna be selected image dot description. Cool. So for the box, we can have another box here. That's fine. Can we? Actually, let's see what we did in the last one, because let's see, what is our box looking like? Okay, so we just add another one. That's fine. Okay, so we just add another box, and we're gonna say x display is gonna be flex. Justify content. We're gonna have that as center. I know this we're not able to see what we're doing right now, but trust me, if we were to stop and check everything one at a time, this is gonna go on forever. Material UI is not easy to just implement. That's all I can say. It's not the easiest thing to just implement without going through it step by step. So it's easier we do it this way, and then if you have any questions, then we can just go over it. So for something we're missing right now is the heart size. So if you look over here, go back home. So basically, right now we have this Spider-Man, no description available. So as you can see, when you click it, it just says that. So now we have to make sure everything shows. So let's see how long it's going to take for this to load up. So that's the thing about using a free server. It takes forever to load up. So it's going to probably make me log out and log back in. But so let's just go on with this for right now. So we're going to need something called the F8 heart. I'm just going to copy it from here. It's a React icon. So I'm just going to import this. You guys can just... So it's import F8 heart, and just make sure it's from React icons and the FA/FA. So we're almost at the home stretch here, guys. We're at the home stretch actually. So let's just finish out strong. Size, we're going to say is 24. The color, let's see if we're done. Is this it? Yep. So nope, that's not it. Still loading. Why wasn't even loading? I was going to show you guys what it is, but let's keep moving on, and then I'll show you. So color, so the color of this heart is, if it's saved, if our character is saved, we want it to be color red. If it's not saved, we want it to be color black. And that's pretty much it. That's all it is. Yeah. And now we can say on click, we want it to say, so when we click on it, if
IO.
it's not saved, so if it's not saved, then save character
Music licensing reimagined.
yeah, so if it's not on click, if it's not saved, we want to save character. So now, so if it's not saved, then I want you to save the character. That's all it's saying. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're all done. So it's saying buttons not used. That's fine. We don't need it. So that's the main gist of what we just did. So that's all it is. So that's the whole project. So we're pretty much, we're all done. So now let's see if it works. So home. And the reason it keeps doing that is because we're in production. So it's just gonna, anytime you refresh or something, it's gonna go tell you to log back in. Oh, so it's saying no description available and it's not showing that. So it's not working. Okay. So let's debug this and see what we did wrong. So first, why isn't the image not showing? So let's see. First of all, let's change this. Secondly, let's go to that image. I most likely spelled something wrong again. So T? Nope. Yeah, here we go. There we go. There we go. Everything works now. Let's just make sure it's not the other one. Okay, it works now. Now let's see, does our saved work? So our save doesn't work yet. So let's debug that real quickly. Okay, so in our log here, it's saying character ID validate error. So this is coming from MongoDB. So it says schema type, blah, 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 mongoose. So when I come here, I see character ID here is set to capital. So it's very case specific. So we got to change that to a lowercase for saved item. So save that. And then when we come over to, now we have to go back down to our auth controller and change this. Oh, okay, we can leave this at lowercase. Now it's at lowercase. So that's fine. Let's see, character ID. So we should be fine now. So let's see. Let's try it again. Inspect. Close out of this and let's click this. All right, so it's saved successfully. As you can see, it works perfectly. So now if we head over to saved, why are we not seeing anything in saved? That's right, because we didn't build out the saved. Saved has not been built out. So once again, we're nearing the home stretch, but we're not fully there yet. So we just have to show what we have to. Let's see, is this something I can easily paste and then just go over? Yeah, I don't need any of this. So let's see. Yeah, why not? I can just copy this and we could just go over it together. So let's see. Let's see. Does this work? Okay, yeah, it does. So I'll just copy that. So that way we don't have to worry about it. So in our saved, what we're doing, so this should not be that difficult if you've been following along. What we're doing is we're going to be importing this as we go. So we're going to take our saved and we're going to set up two state variables. We're going to say saved characters and is loading. Now is loading is it's it's subjective. If you want it, it doesn't have to be there, but it's a good way to do your. It's a good state property to have in your code. So we're gonna have saved characters, which is gonna be an empty array, and we're gonna be getting this user because remember everything we do is saved to our user. So we're gonna be getting our user from use auth. Then we're gonna get we're gonna set up a use effect which just fetches our characters. So fetch saved characters, and we're gonna be receiving it from saved characters, the backend saved characters, because that's where everything is saved. With credentials is true, so you can either say with credentials true here, or you can just put the Axios dot defaults with credentials equals true, but this is a faster way of doing it. Also, you can just do this with credentials is true, and you're going to be getting the fetch data and saving that data into saved characters. You're going to set is load into false because we have the data. If we don't have the data, then it will be true. We'll be loading the data. And then console error fetch and saved characters, error set is loading to false. And then we're going to call this function and have an empty dependency for use effect. Now, we also want to be able to remove the character, meaning if I come over here, I want to be able to click this and it's gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another function and say const handle remove character is equal to asynchronous, and it's going to be dependent on the character ID. So whatever character ID we have there is what we're going to be using. That's our parameter. So try catch as always, await axios.delete. So we're going to be deleting axios.delete. And if we look here in the back end, let's see, routes. As you can see, routes.delete is what we use for the parameter character ID, because we have get, post, and delete. We're going to be using routes.delete. So it's going to be axios.delete, backend URL, auth, remove characters, and the parameter is going to be character ID. That's what we're going to be deleting. We're going to be deleting what we're going to the logic is going to compare the character ID here that you want to delete and that in the database. So if it matches, then it deletes it. So set saved characters, previous character. So you can just put this in there. It's just it's a way to filter through things. Just put this in there that way. It's just filtering through the characters is all it's doing. And then catch. So here's just your basic front end. What you can see, the UX, what you can see on the screen, UI UX. So we want it to be width full, height is the whole screen, flex, and we want it to be flex column. We want it to be in a column format. H1, we're going to be saying text center, we want it bold, we want it capitalized, and we want the text to be 5V min with the margin top of 20. The reason we want the margin top of 20 is because of our nav bar. So we're going to be saying margin top of 20. Here is going to say users, so we're just going to extrapolate users, put it in there, and say users saved characters. So whatever the username is going to show up. So if your username is test, it's going to say test saved characters, just like here it says test saved characters. I don't know why I keep doing that. And now div class flex grow. So just put that in there. You can look up what flex grow means. It's one of the flex properties. So now we're gonna say when it's loading, if it's loading, then do all this, which is show that it's loading. So if it's loading, show that it's loading. Else, saved characters dot length is equal to 0. Save characters dot length if equal to 0, then tell me that there's no saved characters yet. I don't say yet, just no saved characters. So no saved characters is fine. So meaning if you look here, there's nothing there. The length of whatever's in here is 0. So it's just going to tell me that there's no saved characters. Else, we're going to say save characters, and then we're going to map through it with the characters. The key is going to be character.id. The class name is full. The source is going to be character.image URL. The alternative is going to be character.description or title, whichever one you, or name, whatever you want to put it, as long as it corresponds to what's in the what's stated in the API. And then the button. So the button is absolute because you want the button to be at the top. So you want the button here. So if I save this, so it's saved. If I come over to saved, the button here is at the top. That's why it's absolute. So you want it to be absolute, top 2, right 2. The background is red, the text is white, and you want it rounded full. On click, you want that handle remove character. You want this with the character ID as the parameter. And then the style is z index, so it's so it shows at the top of it. And you want the 5 times. So this is the type of icon it's going to be, 5 times, and it's going to be within the button tag. And for the H1, we just end with the character name. So if you look over here, interesting. Actually, that part doesn't really do much. So let's take that out. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. So I think I got this part wrong. Character dot, I think it's character dot name. Maybe I might be wrong. Yeah, so you can, I'm gonna take that out because I don't know what the API what it's stated in the API for the name, but yeah, you can just do that. You can plug that in if you want. Actually, let me not take it out. I'm just gonna comment it out. Cool. So I'm gonna comment it out. You can have this. You just got to figure out if it's its name or title. I can't remember what it is, and then you're done. And that's the whole thing. So that's pretty much the end of it. This keeps telling you to do this because it's in development and how we set it up in our controller. So in our auth controller, when we set up our authenticate, we're using when we set up, I believe, the token, it was when we said HTTP only secure false. So because of the way we set up this cookie, it's going to constantly keep telling us to, anytime we do something, it's going to tell us to keep signing in. But if you guys want me to show you how to deploy this, I can also make another video on that. But this is pretty much the end of the series. I tried as much as possible to condense it. It's going to be a little longer than I thought it would be, but this is pretty much what you're getting. You can slow this down if you want, the slideshow if you want. You can also put, if your cursor is on it, you can stop the slideshow. Those are things you can implement on your own. If you need any help or you have questions, you can just go ahead and ask in the comment section. I'll try my best to help you out. But yeah, this makes it great for those of you in trying to get your portfolio up and running. You can do this for a portfolio project. But yeah, like I said, this is the end of the project. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you did enjoy it. It really helps the algorithm, and it helps me know that it makes me feel like I'm helping people out there. But yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.